So if you've ever considered a job in insurance, you're probably wondering which position is better, a desk adjuster role or a field adjuster role?
You in the past, I'm in the future. You mad?
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Keela Trishan and I do videos on lifestyle, womanhood, and mental health. I also do vlogs on day in the life with a toddler, day in the life in the insurance industry, things of that sort. So if that's something that interests you, definitely go on ahead and click that subscribe button below. Be sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back and thank you for your support. Okay, so I know I said in a previous video that I don't really see videos on YouTube that talk about the adjuster position in insurance and just kind of like what it's like to do that job. And so today I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what it's like to be a field adjuster and also what it's like to be a desk adjuster. I will explain what both of those roles are, and the way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna tell you just kind of like a day in the life of each role, and then I will give you my opinion on which one is better for me at the end. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go on ahead and stay tuned. Okay, so the first role that I'm gonna discuss is that of a desk adjuster. A desk adjuster is exactly what it sounds like. You are adjusting claims from your desk. So basically you do not have to go out to meet with anybody. It is not typically a customer facing role unless your office is set up to where you can have people come in to provide them with their checks or any documentation that they need. Basically it's gonna be a phone based position, and you kind of work in like a call center type environment, but you get your assignments and then everything is handled over the phone. So it does not require you to like leave your office throughout the day unless there's some type of event or whatever. And it's also a job that you can do either inside of an office or you can do it from home if your company allows it. This is my second time doing this type of position as a desk adjuster. When I did it at first, my first insurance job was inside of an office. So we were like in a cubicle type setting. It was a bunch of us, and the role that I have now is pretty much the exact same type of role, but I can do it from home. But similar, like my computer is in one place, that's where I sit, that's where I do my work. So that is one thing about the desk adjuster position, you are gonna be pretty much stationary. That's also why I talk about like making sure that you get up throughout the day, making sure that you don't stay glued to the computer, because it is a position where you can be glued to your computer. So typically the hours are gonna be very standard. It's gonna be like your 8 to 5, your 9 to 6, sometimes 10 to 7, depending on the company, but usually you're gonna either start between like 8 and 9 and then work your 8 hours unless you're doing overtime that day, or even sometimes on the weekend, depending on your company and what the workload is looking like. Sometimes they will allow you to work on a Saturday or Sunday to get some additional work done. So a typical day would basically be you coming to clock in. Obviously, if you're working from home, you clock in from your computer or from your phone. And if you are in an office, it would typically be like a badge in type thing, or you would do that also on your computer. As I've said before, like when I kind of walk you guys through like a day in the life of what I do in my particular position, the first thing I like to do is check my voicemails and emails to see what came through. And I'll also check what's called the desktop, and that is usually like your company's portal where all of your claims are stationed and where you would have your activities. So you want to check and see if there's anything pressing that you need to get through right away. Typically that's going to be like the first couple of hours of the day, and then from there you want to get into starting with your new claims. Now, every company's different, but standard is for you to get somewhere between 4 and 5 claims per day. I know with my company, I know I've told you guys before, we've been extremely busy. This was the same at my other company as well. I will sometimes get 9 and 10 claims per day. So you're essentially getting 9 to 10 new people that you have to contact on a daily basis. So with that being said, getting all of those new assignments per day, it can sometimes get a little tough to stay on track. So that's why it's important to have systems in place to keep you on track. If you need help with that, if you're an adjuster that's struggling, or if you just kind of need some tips, I do have a video where I talk about things to make you successful in this type of role. So I will link that here in the cards for you if that's something that you're interested in. But basically my goal is to try to get those new files set up before I clock out for lunch. So I try to get them set up like in the late morning before I take my break up until I take my lunch. So that brings me to break time. So after I get through so many assignments, and then mind you, at this point, I've already checked my emails and my voicemails. So I've addressed that, early in the morning, gotten together a few files, maybe followed up on a couple things. It's time to take a break. So usually on my break time, I take 15 minutes. Your company could be different. It could be 10 minutes, but I am considered an hourly employee. So we do have to take breaks and lunches by a certain time. So 15-minute break for me working from home. That means that I am attending to my son. So getting him a snack, changing his diaper if it needs to be changed, changing his clothes if they're messed up for whatever reason, making sure he's good. And then also making sure I get myself a snack, using the restroom if I need to, taking a walk around, getting some fresh air. I make sure that I'm diligent about taking those breaks, because sometimes with those, they're not gonna force you. It's said that you're supposed to take your breaks, but they don't always force you to take them. So you have to be diligent about getting up and taking those breaks. So once break time is over, I come back, and then now I'm just trying to make sure that I take care of the fires before I actually clock out for lunch. For me, when I'm on lunch and I know that there's something really big that I have to address, it doesn't help me. Like, I end up not enjoying my lunchtime. So if there is something pressing, I'll address that right then and there. I finish setting up my new files and then clock out for lunch. So with my company, I take an hour lunch, but a lot of times you have the choice of taking a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour. I take my full hour because I am working from home and I need that time to decompress and, again, to attend to my son. So when I get back from lunch, I do the same thing over again. I check those emails and voicemails to see if anything came through when I was out, and I address those before I get into calling my new assignments. And then after I'm done calling my new assignments and addressing those emails and voicemails, then what I'll do is I will do my follow-ups. So anything that I can pay on, like anything that's ready to pay, I pay that out. Anything that I can move forward, I move that forward. And then a little before the end of the business day, what I like to do is one more check of my emails and voicemails. If it's something quick that I can address, I will do that before I clock out of the office for the day. Or if it's something that is going to take me some time, I just kind of set up a diary for myself to make sure I do that the next morning. It depends on if I plan on doing overtime or not. So I try to time it. And I also go through my desktop and I'll move activities that maybe, like, I know I'm not going to be able to get this done by tomorrow, so I'll move this maybe 2 or 3 days out. Things that I know I can get done tomorrow, I'll move those up. And I just try to make my desk manageable each day. So I go through everything that I have left over for the day if I wasn't able to finish. And then I'll look at what I have going on tomorrow to see if there's anything I can move or, stuff like that. And that's basically the job of a desk adjuster. So once you clock out, you're done. You typically will clock out on your computer, like I said, or you will badge out if you're working in an office. And that's basically it. So your full day is going to consist of you being at the computer most of the time. You get your 2 breaks and you get your lunch hour. So however you set that up is how you set that up, but you are basically on your own. So you do have management that you can consult if you need help. Your manager will probably reach out to you if they got a call on a claim that you're on, or if they need you to do something. But basically you are responsible for setting up your desk for success. You're responsible for setting up your desk the way it works for you. And yeah, that's it for the desk adjuster position. Okay, so the second role that I want to discuss is the role of a field adjuster. So a field adjuster is kind of the opposite of the desk adjuster position. And field adjuster just basically means that you have a territory, and when you are out in that territory, it's considered the field. So it is a term that's used in insurance positions. Typically, this role is going to be based from home because you set up where you do get claims, but you set up your day to go inspect these claims. So whereas a desk adjuster, you're getting the claims like sent to you on your computer, and you do all of your research and setting up from your computer. When you are a field adjuster, you get the assignments on either your phone or your computer or both, and you are you're a remote adjuster. So typically you have a company car, and you use that company car to go and inspect your new claims. So just to kind of walk you through the day in the life of a field adjuster, it's going to be similar to where you are going to be clocking in, but you're going to be clocking in on your company phone if you're already out on the road, or you're going to be clocking in on your computer. Typically, it's going to be a laptop because since you're actually going to meet with people, you're going to need your computer to be mobile, so you can type in your notes and put in whatever documentation you need, things like that. So in that role, the way I would set it up is to my benefit, which is the beauty of that type of role. So you don't have a typical commute, and then you're not stuck to a desk all day. You do actually have to get out and go and see people, but you still have desk work to do. So that's where it can get tricky because you're juggling the two. So the way I like to do it is we would get, in the role I had, we would get about 8 to 9 assignments per week. And the reason why we only got that many assignments is because of the fact that we did have to drive. So just to kind of put it in context, the idea was to go out, at least 4 days a week to go and inspect your claims and then, put in your notes, write your estimates and all that good stuff, and then have one desk day. It didn't always work out like that. There were times where I would have inspections every single day, or depending on, my customer schedules, I may be out in the field every single day. So I would have to set up my inspections for a certain time, but then also allow myself time to put in my notes, take lunch, get back home, all that stuff. And then there would be days where, it'd be a little slow. So maybe I don't have to go out on this inspection because this person isn't available this week. I got this claim, so I'm going to investigate it, but I'm going to set it up for next week. So it just kind of depends. But a typical day would be, in my case, I like to do my inspections in the morning because I wanted to be home in the evening. That worked for me. So this was even before I had my son. I started this particular position before I had him. And then even after I had him, it worked because me being in the evening, I was there to relieve whoever was looking after him. So typically I would get up between 6 and 7, get myself together, and my clock in time was 8 o'clock. So I did have flexibility on that if someone needed to meet a little bit earlier and I was able to accommodate that, or even if they needed to meet a little bit later, I could accommodate that as well and just adjust my hours because I was in the field. So typically I would have, I like to set it up to where I had no more than 2 inspections in a day because I wanted to allow myself enough time to work my desk and to work, the other claims that I had, the things that I was following up on. So I would typically set an inspection. My first one, I would typically set it for maybe 9 a.m. I would allow myself a couple of hours to get there, do the inspection thoroughly, answer their questions while I'm on site, write their estimate while I'm there. And if I needed to get approval, then I wouldn't be able to pay them right away, but we were able to pay people right away if we had an estimate prepared. So I would do that, and then I would go to the next inspection after that. So all kind of depended on what city you were in and, just like the driving proximity. So morning time was basically my time to do my inspections. Now in this role, you are expected to take breaks, but again, it's kind of tough depending on your workload and where you're at. So a lot of times my break would be taken while I'm driving. So what I would do is on the way home, since I didn't take an actual break, I may stop at Starbucks or somewhere just to get myself like a snack or something to eat. And I would come home typically before my lunch break. So the plan really was to get home in that like 11 o'clock hour so I could have some time to work on some files, call people back, and then take my lunch. And then when I come back from lunch, I'm basically working on all of my assignments that I had on my desktop. So all the diaries that I had, that's what I'm trying to work through. Typically in that role, I'm gonna be honest, I did not take a lot of breaks because it was pretty busy. And because I had to deal with a commute, I just didn't really have the luxury of taking breaks. I would get up, here and there, because sitting with a laptop, and at the time I didn't have a desk set up. I was sitting just kind of like on my bed with my laptop. Wasn't always the most comfortable. So I would get up, and then especially with my son, after he was born, I was forced to get up and, make sure everything was good, make sure whoever was looking after him was good, and, all that. But yeah, so pretty much my days consisted of being out on the road and then getting back home before lunchtime. But there were days where, if people couldn't meet me in the morning, then I would be out in the evening, not after I got off. I would be out in the field like maybe late afternoon doing an inspection. But if that happened, if I had a situation where I had like a late afternoon inspection, then I would use the morning time to work my desktop. So that's the beauty of the field position. You can kind of set it up, however works for you. Now, there were times where I would have a day full of inspections or a day full of desk work, but the ideal way for me to do it would be, morning time inspections or, evening or afternoon inspections. And then whatever other time I wasn't using for inspections would be my time for like desk work and returning calls. So you got emails and you got voicemails in that role too, obviously, but a lot of times I was returning my calls from the road. Like, they gave us headsets so we could be hands-free. So I would use that time while I was commuting to like return calls. There were some things where I would actually need my computer to be open to answer questions. So in those cases, I would have to wait until I was stationed somewhere to return that person's call. But there was a lot of working from my car when I did that position. Like if I had, some time between inspections, then I may pull over into like some type of parking lot, like a shopping center or something, and, work until I had to go to that next inspection. We did have like a VPN system where we would be able to hook up in our car, access the company site, and actually get some work done. But I tried to do most of that from home where I was comfortable. So yeah, that's basically what a field adjuster position looks like. Okay, so now that I've told you just kind of like what each job entails, I'll kind of tell you my opinion on like which is the better position, and you can kind of make your decision on what works for you. So I would say that out of I'm gonna say 3, because even though I discussed 2, the desk adjuster role, I've done that both in the office and I've done that at home. And then obviously I had the field adjuster position. So I would say out of the 3, the one that I probably liked the most was the field adjuster position. That position doesn't work for me really right now, and I'll kind of go into why in a second. But what I liked about that role is that it forced me to get out of the house. I have a tendency to sit in the house, like I'm a homebody. So I have a tendency to sit in the house for days at a time. And then I'll get to a point where I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get out. Like I'll get frustrated and I gotta get outside. So the field adjuster position forced me to get out. So it forced me to, get some fresh air, go on a drive and listen to some music. Like that was usually like my zen time. Like I was listening to my music on the way to whatever inspection I was going to. The only time that I didn't really have control over my day is if we had a meeting, which was usually like a monthly or bi-monthly type thing. Or like if we had trainers that would ride with us. So if we had a trainer riding with us, I would have control over when I set up the inspection and they came with me on that inspection, but I didn't really have control over the time after. Because a lot of times they wanted to keep you to kind of go over your claims, make sure that you're doing things correctly, that kind of stuff. But out of those jobs, I did enjoy the field adjuster position. What I didn't like, and I've talked about this in previous videos, when I first started YouTube, I was doing a lot of like story time. So if you're interested in any of those, I have some up like from last year, but my manager was an asshole. So that is something I've talked about that before, just like in insurance, like it's no matter what role you do, it's tough. So it's important to have a manager that has your back, have like a good team. And that role, my team was great. Like I'm friends with them still, but my manager was a complete bitch, so that made the job hard. But as far as the actual job itself, it was cool. One of the cons I can say, and it's not even really a con, it just kind of depends on how you look at it. I was doing that job in the homeowners department. And so if you're writing estimates, you need to know about homeowner materials and, drywall and flooring and stuff like that. So it's a lot of technical experience that you should have, which a lot of it I learned on the job. So it made the job really tough in the beginning. Like I had freedom, but I didn't know what I was doing at all. But I did get the training. Then obviously it starts to get repetitive. So you understand, as you go on, what to do, but it was difficult in that sense, like the writing of the estimates. Like you're basically in charge of putting together that. They also have that same role. They have it in auto, but it's like an appraiser position. So you go out and you look at vehicles and you write estimates for the car. So that I feel like would be more my speed with the vehicles. I'm way more familiar with vehicles than I am with like home parts. I've never done construction or anything like that. So that would probably be the only thing that I would say was like super tough about that. What works for me best these days is the job that I have now. So when I was doing the office desk adjuster position and the field position, in the beginning, I did not have a child. So towards the end of me being in the field adjuster position, I did have my child, and that job did work for me because I had people that would come to my house and watch my son. But as the pandemic hit and daycares were closing and stuff like that, I just really couldn't be in a position where I needed to go out, like where I had to go out. So my goal was to find a position where I could do the desk adjuster job and be at home. So this position works for me really well because he's still not in daycare. He's still here with me, and I'm able to do my job and then also parent him. So it's difficult because obviously if you have a child, that is a full-time job in and of itself, and it's a 24/7 job. But I'm still able to provide for my family with being able to work and not have to leave. So yeah, I think just kind of the decision on which is better really is an individual decision. Like for me, the field position worked at that point in my life where, you know, I didn't have a child, or I would say I would be open to doing that position again, not necessarily in that department, but like I've mentioned before, like I would love to do like an underwriting position or a special investigations unit position. They call it SIU. I would love to do that type of position where I'm in the field once my son is in school. So once he's, you know, in school and, you know, I don't have to worry about him for several hours throughout the day, I wouldn't mind doing that role. Like I actually like being out in the field and just kind of like having that freedom to go out and investigate. That actually, you know, is interesting to me. The desk adjuster role is cool, but it can get a little boring, you know, so you have to kind of keep that in mind. Now, for some people, that's okay. You might just be okay, like sitting in front of your computer and just being on the phone and, you know, talking to people that way. And I don't necessarily have a big issue with it. It's not that big of a deal because, again, it works for me now, but preferably I would be in the field. So yeah, so that is my take on, you know, those roles. I do plan on doing some other videos, like kind of comparing departments and stuff like that. So stay tuned. But if you have any questions, like specific questions that I didn't touch on in this video about the desk adjuster and field adjuster positions, feel free to leave me a comment below. Also, definitely let me know if there are any other like videos dealing with insurance that you're wanting to see. I will let you know if I have experience in that arena, like if I can actually do a video on it, or, you know, if it's something that I can actually talk about. So let me know down below. And then also, if you made it this far, definitely click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Be sure to click that like button too. That actually helps me get out to other people so they can get this information. Share this with your friends and family if you know somebody that could use it. And with that being said, again, just thank you so much for being here, and you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.
You mad, they don't salute you. I need a bag, size is super. They turned your bag, it's like I never knew you. Leave that.